My first band director called my mom and said, well, we're going to start her on trumpet because horn is too hard and everybody quits right away. And my mom told me, and I apparently threw a fifth grade tantrum and was like, I hate the trumpet. I'd rather play nothing than the trumpet. I'm playing the French horn, whether anybody likes it or not. And so my mom made me sign basically like a contract that I would practice for 20 minutes a day the first year, 30 minutes the next year, 40 the next year, and that I wouldn't quit for 3 years, that I would give it 3 years. Well, I mean, they called me the dying moose. It wasn't like I sounded decent at all. Of course, it was very honky, but it was very fun. And I tend to like things that are super challenging.
That's Jen Montone, principal horn of the Philadelphia Orchestra, describing her humble but disciplined beginnings. You're hearing a clip from her latest project, which is making educational videos with beautiful performances, as well as style and interpretation tips. This episode goes into Jen's path with the horn, mindfulness, trauma release work, recovering from injuries. She leads us on a powerful guided meditation to build resilience for high-pressure performances, and talks about the role of self-love in musical risk-taking. It's really cool. We unpack a jaw-dropping moment from when I played Firebird with her in Philly and dive into her equipment choices over the years, and you'll hear why Jen's latest recording project is so special. Listen to the end to discover Jen's solution to hesitant attacks and find out how many hand positions she uses. Welcome to the Holistic Horn Podcast. My name is Mars Gelfo, and this podcast is for you to enjoy incredible personalities from the horn and music world so that you can get actionable insights, inspiration, and ideas to help you live your best life as a musician. Here's episode 4, Jen Montone. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you so much. You're so nice.
Yeah,
Very thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So I've got so many questions for you, but the first question, I think it's a good starting place, is how did you get started on the horn? And were you good when you just picked it up?
Well, I don't think anybody's good when we first pick it up. I mean, yeah, I started when I was 10, just, school band kind of thing. My sister is a clarinetist, and she helped me figure out which instrument, I might want to play. And she got out like a recording of a Let's Go Band, and we went through and, she told me which each instrument, you know, was by like when I would say I liked it or didn't like it. And then we kind of went to the library and found a book and cross-referenced what I liked, how it sounded, and how it looked.
So you tried
Yep.
a few different instruments that you liked.
No, I just kind of I looked at them and listened to them and then decided that I wanted to play this. Actually, my first band director was a horn player, and so uh, apparently when I put on the form that I wanted to play horn, she called my mom and said, "Well, we're going to start her on trumpet because horn is too hard and everybody quits right away, and if she hasn't played piano yet, then we probably shouldn't. It's like I don't want her to quit and get discouraged and everything, so we'll just start her on trumpet." And my mom told me, and I apparently threw like a fifth grade tantrum and was like, I hate the trumpet. I'd rather play nothing than the trumpet. I'm playing the French horn, whether anybody likes it or not. And so my mom made me sign basically like a contract that I would practice for 20 minutes a day the first year, 30 minutes the next year, 40 the next year, and that I wouldn't quit for 3 years, that I would give it 3 years. And
Wow.
I thought it was kind of, I mean, I probably found it annoying at the time, but in retrospect, I think it's kind of brilliant because I'm pretty stubborn and that's pretty detailed. And that probably was by far the best way to get me to actually, commit to something and try my best at it.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
How did that contract go? Did you actually stick to the practice regime?
probably ish. I mean, it was on my fridge for 3 years. I do remember that. And
Wow.
anytime I'd meow about doing stuff, she'd be like, contract, so it's like, okay. So just
That's
kind of like, you
amazing.
made your bed. Sorry. I think it
Wow.
was a good starting point.
And as you were getting started those first years, did it feel did it feel pretty natural?
I think it was pretty natural. I mean, they called me the dying moose. It wasn't like I sounded decent at all. Of course, it was very honky. It was very fun, and I tend to like things that are super challenging.
Hmm.
So I think it was a good amount of challenge and a good amount of this is okay. I mean, I still think it's a miracle that any of us find an instrument that actually works with how our brains work, because anything with more finger involvement would have been a disaster for me. Two-handed, it's like Harper piano would have been horrible. It's like I can't, it's like really like the lip and the ear and the way that that works is kind of the only thing that is a natural talent that actually it's very fortunate that it worked out to be the horn.
That's really
So,
cool.
yeah, so I think that's neat anyway. But yeah, it was very fun, and I had a nice like high school girl who taught me initially, and then as I got more into it, then I went to someone who studied with somebody who was in a service band, and then in high school I studied with Edwin Thayer, who is amazing, and Sylvia Alamina, who's incredible. So it's like I had like really nice positive and nurturing role models right off the bat and straight through with Julie Landsman. So it's like, I kind of lucked out on the progression of things going rather smoothly at first for a while. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, had
Yeah,
some
so
challenges more recently, but the initial 10, 15 years were pretty good.
that's amazing. So when you met Julie and started working with her, like what was that like? What did you work on? What was her attitude towards you? And how would you say that your time with her impacted you?
Ooh. I mean, she's an incredible pedagogue and very wise person. So I feel super lucky to have gotten to work with her. I think she's really great at looking at each student in front of her, just even not even like I'm different than whoever she taught before me, but like I'm different than I was last week kind of thing. Like, who is this person in front of me? What do they need? What is their history? How much space do they take up in the room? What challenges them? What motivates them? When do they need like a nurturing person as opposed to a challenging person? Kind of what's going to inspire them, inside and out, and it's like she's really good at looking at people, that way. And then also like, well, how are you progressing and how has your week been? And then like all of that, are you on in the middle of a path going up? Are you feeling like you're hitting a wall? Like, do we need to change direction? So I found that really beautiful to watch, and I try to integrate that into my teaching. She's also kind of tough and honest, and that was good. It's like I had a pretty tough and very honest kind of kick in the pants kind of soccer coach also when I was younger. And honestly, it's a good combination to have that because it's it's good for resilience. And I feel like in our field, I feel grateful that there was enough of that in my upbringing and then also in my college. You're not awesome all the time, but you're always striving and you're always trying, you're always thinking. And it kind of it puts perspective, I think, in the right place. It's like caring is more important than a lot of other things. And maybe process is more important than outcome. And I think that always has been in the back of my mind because of these influences where wisdom was a great component of what they were teaching me.
It sounds like a growth mindset where your effort matters a lot more than necessarily your results at any given moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do a lot of visualization and a lot of self-talk, and always like my visualizations end with like, this was me today. I showed them who I was today, and this was the best I could be. This is my most beautiful version of me today. And
Wow.
it's like, it's just, we can always strive for that. And then that's just an honest and loving and like, yeah, very growth mindseted kind of, thing to sit with. I love like Jeff Nelson does a lot of that as well, which is cool in his fearless performance stuff.
Let us into your head for a minute of a visualization, a Jen Montone visualization. Like what does that look
Oh,
like?
okay, cool. Yeah, it's a Julie Landsman thing. I can do it really quickly. So before, maybe 2 weeks before a performance, once you feel like you're pretty prepared and you're starting to do kind of mock auditions or mock run-throughs or start rehearsing with your pianist or like, you're rehearsing with the orchestra, whatever it is, you can start really visualizing what the performance is going to be like or the audition. And, I mean, you can even like go and find a picture of the hall that you're going to have your audition in or whatever. And you can imagine basically every little aspect of it, and then and basically it's sealing in your memory that you have done this and that you've solved your problems and that you've done yourself proud and that the process of it has happened already. And if you do this like once a night for 2 weeks, it's like you've got 14 great run throughs. So when your nervous system starts freaking out, your body will be like, dude, you've done it 14 times. Really, what's this last one? I mean, it's just another good run, right? So it's a good way to kind of trick yourself. And it comes from there's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. It's like from the 60s, and it's a little bit wordy. It's a psychology book, but it's got this basic thing of you can trick your mind into anything. So if I get freaked out, like in the second movement of a concerto where I'm playing something and I start feeling like, oh, I'm not breathing well, and then you get into the last movement, what you can do is like, we're dancing now. Like we're toe tapping, we're having a great time. Fake smile to that audience. Yeah, move your body. And what it does is your body sends signals to your brain. Your brain says, "Oh, I thought we were freaking out. No, we're having great. Okay, perfect." Send some endorphins back down to yourself, and you've just faked yourself out. And it floods your system with positivity, and it's just kind of the same thing as when you say like, don't do that, your brain hears the that. And, it's like you can work
Uh-huh.
with yourself or against yourself, and it's a good way to work with yourself. So the visualization that I do a couple weeks before important things is a Julie taught thing. And you lay down and you nose breathe, very relaxed exhales. You're going to inhale wispy clouds and exhale smoke. So inhaling a sense of purity and floatingness and simplicity and peace, and exhaling toxins and worry and stress and tightness. And you're going to imagine yourself at the top of a staircase. Does it have a railing? What is it made of? Is it wood or metal or stone? You put your hands on the railing or you don't. You put your foot on the floor. No shoes, no socks. What does it feel like? Is it cold to the touch? Is it smooth? Is it your left foot or your right? And you put some weight on it. There's a railing, you feel your fingers smoothly glide down the sides. Feel the pressure of your foot receiving the weight of your body. And you feel your left or your right other foot move. Do the second step. You breathe and look around. What do you see? Another step. You feel the leg muscles. Right foot, left foot. You feel the friction under your hands. Feel whether your foot is hitting the ball of your foot or your toes. Feel the lift off of the toes as you go to put your next foot down. You're just progressing down your stairs. Is there a turn at the bottom? Does it end straight? To the right, to the left? You get down to the bottom of your staircase and you imagine yourself waking up the morning of your performance. Feel yourself kind of doing what you do. You roll around in bed or you stretch out a little bit, you buzz, start feeling a little like, jitter, excitement, nerves, and you see yourself sort of from a third person. See yourself breathing. It's like, and you cheerleader yourself, you coach yourself. Like, this is it. This is the day. It's gonna be great. You have this energy inside you and you can feel like it's scary, you can feel like it's fun, it's adrenaline, whatever. You see yourself getting stretched out, feeling open and free. Look out the window, a little bit of sun coming in, bright fresh day, new beginnings kind of thing. And then get up, You take a shower, you buzz in there, you feel the vibrations of your lips. It feels good. You feel the water on your skin and you feel like your muscles are relaxing. If your lips feel a little bit, stiff or toasted, you see yourself basically fixing it. You do some lip buzzing, you do some fluttering. So you get the response you feel good about. If it's dry, you feel the moisture going in there. You see yourself eating, see yourself packing up for the day. You're organized, you're in control, you have everything you need. Got some water, got some food, you have sustenance. You're taking care of everything because you know what you're doing and you know what you need and you know what you want for this day. When you see yourself walking out of your house or apartment, maybe you take a cab, maybe you walk to where you're going, maybe you have a couple things through your day first. Then you see yourself getting to where you're going. We'll call this an audition. At an audition, you watch yourself from the outside, you get yourself signed in, you smile at the people at the desk, you see some people that you find yourself a little freaked out, making small talk, then you're feeling neurotic and you're like, I should warm up. So you see yourself calmly smiling, saying something gracious to, get yourself to having a little me time. You go to the warm-up room. You see yourself worrying about air, so you do some breathing. You see yourself feeling tight, so you do some stretching. See yourself feeling worried about your face, so you do some extra flexibility. You get the list. You see yourself worrying about the different excerpts, so you go, you put your mental preparation before each one. You see yourself doing the mental prep, and then you play the first couple notes. You're like, I've got this down. For this one, I'll need to watch my rhythm. So I will subdivide before. This one, I need to really watch my air. But this one, I really want to phrase beautifully. This one, I want to be noble and broad. Good. Let me do a broad, noble arpeggio. Yes, that's exactly it. Good. How is that pitch? You see yourself basically warming up all the different aspects, getting yourself ready and proving to yourself that you've prepared all this in and you know exactly what you need to do. When the proctor comes, feel a sudden burst of, oh my God. You see yourself nose breathing, walking meditation, smiling kind of blankly, gathering your thoughts, gathering your focus as you walk over to the stage. You're singing your concerto in your head, kind of walking meditation, vamping the accompaniment in your mind as if the orchestra is already playing and you're just going to walk right out and join this moving train of beauty and style that's already set up for you. You see yourself walking out as if in a trance and you're kind of amazed by, like, look at that person, focused, quietly confident, just stable, solid, determined. And you watch yourself from a third person. And you go through every excerpt. You see yourself focusing in between each one. You empty your slides. You let the last one go. You see yourself kind of swaying along, breathing, subdividing, getting yourself in the color of the next one after the other, quietly going through your routine. And then at the end, you see yourself getting up, excited, it's done. I did what I needed to do. And a quiet smile comes across your lips and your face as you leave. You think, this is me today. That was my gift of myself, who I am, just right at this moment. And that is enough. And then you quietly open your eyes and come back. And you want to kind of sit with that piece of, like, beauty is not perfect. Beauty is the striving, and we've all got that in spades. So, and kind of sit with that nice that peace and the intention that you just sort of built into that visualization. And you can do that a bunch about a whole bunch of things. And it's really fun.
Wow. Wow, that was incredible. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah, and the more detailed you can be is great. So it's great if it takes like, a good 15 minutes or however long the round would be or the piece would be. And you can put your specifics in it, like even just, I need to take a really big breath here and I'm going to sustain to the top here. And then I'm going to color this and listen to the piano and listen to it's like every little detail you can put in there. It reinforces what all you've practiced and what all you intend for your piece.
Extraordinary. There was one thing that I noticed that happened again and again and again in that guided meditation, which was that it'd be notice that your chops don't feel so good and you fix it. Notice you get nervous and so you do that. Notice that a thought starts to distract you and you come back to center. That's something that I think a lot of people might be missing, is actually planning for those distractions and imperfections to arise and dealing with them constructively.
Yeah, funny because I've found lately, especially that like confidence from actually proving to yourself, for me at least, like that I know what to do when things go wrong. And I think at some point we all hit, maybe it's in college somewhere, we hit this innocence lost moment where just like, oh, like this is hard and this is scary and like I don't know. You have to get over that bump, and your teachers are generally trying to give you a lot of tools to get over that little bump. And a lot of it has to do with this is how I practice this, and this is what I think about. This is the teacher talking to the student. This is how I practice this. This is how I think about it when I'm going to play it. These are ideas you can take. And so you can listen to what all of your influences have said to you. And if you're good at being organized, you can write them down and make lists and things like that. And it's always just good to have a lot of solutions for the things that you find problematic. And then as you're doing like mock auditions or mock performances or playing in horn class or, like playing an orchestra, and you see things happening, I get nervous in this situation, or I tend to do this, or my rhythm starts going wackadoodle, or my breaths are really shallow. It's like, okay, like you have years of people telling you how to fix those things. Like those are just little things and you can always just tweak them and improve them. And the process of getting good at this particular art form is very reassuringly stepwise. So I think, yeah. So sometimes when I'm feeling a little panicked or overwhelmed, or I'm just not good enough, imposter syndrome and sort of all the panic and sort of fuzzy head that comes with, I try to get very detailed about both my intentions musically and then my problem solving technically.
Well, sorry for the interruption, but if you are a horn player and you struggle with high range, confidence, accuracy, consistency, or endurance, this is of interest to you. I am still running my program High Range Magic that has offered profound transformation to folks that want to unlock the high range and all of its benefits. There is a masterclass linked below that you can watch for free, 100% free, 3 Secrets of High Playing. After you watch the masterclass, you'll have an option to book a no-cost one-on-one consult with me if you're interested in finding out more about the program. That's all for now. Back to the episode. What are some of the like bigger, say, technical hurdles or challenges that you've had in your playing, and what strategies worked for them?
Hmm. I mean, there's sort of natural things that I was good at or not good at, and I think some of them have shifted. I had some injuries that I've dealt with. I had a jaw injury, which was about a year and a half, or 2 years of dealing with that. And then I had a back injury that went on for several years, and it was like my back kept going out, and then finally I ended up with a surgery and the recovery from that, which was, kind of epic. And then I had a stomach tear that I'm still kind of working on. I had a PT today. I'm like kind of constantly in physical therapy for that because I think it came from diastasis recti, which is something that happens in pregnancy, but it also happens with like bodybuilders. It's kind of like a hernia, but it's on the outer layer of your stomach. It's in the mesh and the fascia that connects your stomach muscles. And basically, just I think playing at the amount that I do every week just keeps on re-injuring it. So one could get a surgery for it. I'm hoping I won't have to. But basically, each one of these injuries has made me feel weaker and weaker and weaker, which gets into your head after a while. So it's like, it's pretty interesting that way. And then I think we all are just very aware of our strengths and weaknesses. So for me, it was like, well, always in the back of my head is like, well, your low register really not that good, and you haven't been practicing it that much. And like, oh, well, and you're really weak up high. I mean, you're not as strong as any other principal that you know of. And like, oh, well, yeah. And sometimes you throw in vibrato because you don't know what to do musically, and you just kind of boring, really. And it's like
Wow.
you think all these things. It's like, oh, your articulation is so not clear and very fuzzy, or it's too tonguey. I mean, really, it could be on any number of problems. So it's like, I mean, like there's always all this stuff that's like rattling in the back of like those are mine. And, like
Yeah.
my head, I'm just like, oh, fabulous. Like breath control. Well, it used to be decent, but now ever since your injuries, you really can't count on that. So like there's always all of these unhelpful thoughts, and I try to listen to each one of them. I did a therapy called Rubenfeld Synergy, which is pretty cool and kind of wild, for about a year and a half recently. And it was so amazing. She was talking about listening to your body and its messages, and listening to what you say to yourself. And instead of kind of yelling at it or making fun of it or even pushing it away, which I think years of meditation, like I'm not good at gray area so
Right.
well. Like, it's like I'll try to meditate and I'm just like, oh, unhelpful thought. See ya. It's
Uh-huh.
like, well, it just comes back. So like, at some point, with things that are technical relating to horn, I needed to each one of them. It's like, well, low register, sure, you need to babysit that thing. Like you got to get around your break. You got to know where your face has to be for the response for the different things you need. So just practice that. That's fine. Loud thing, like you need to be open. You need to be stretched out and strong. So I can do more, I can do more core strength. I can always do more stretching. I can always take better breaths. I can use my breathing bag. I can do my breathing gym. Like, it's like there's stuff you can do. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, within each insecurity and the timing that the words come to your mind are, annoying and not helpful. But there's always a little truth to like, well, I can always make that better. And honestly, often when I'm in the process of working on something, there's always a confidence that comes from that. So I like to kind of take like, okay, well, I'm working on my articulation. I've been doing like 6 etudes a day. Like, I mean, it's got to be better than if I wasn't, right? And so, you can always find confidence from your problem solving as well as your preparation. When you're prepared for something, you're always more confident. And if you feel like you're weeding your garden pretty regularly and you're establishing a good foundation of like healthy habits, like something like Caruso or the path or, any kind of basic, really good, like basics, foundations, fundamentals package can make you feel quite confident. So basically in the last 15 years, I'd say, dealing with a lot of these injuries, and trying to figure out what makes me feel more solid. And it's a combination of maybe doubling down on foundations and fundamentals and, air and time and how reliable those are. And then practicing the things that I think that I can practice and be better at. And then leaving myself some space to be creative and humor filled and risk taking in the performance realm
Yeah.
so that I can try to keep striving for the artistic stuff that I want. So it's a layering business for me lately. And
That's
it's been really good for my mind and really good for my teaching. And we're all in process, but it's been kind of fun. I've been enjoying things.
what jumps out at me is your courage to face some of this stuff, your humility in being like, yeah, I can always be better. I'm principal horn of Philly, but like, my low register could be better or whatever.
Really good.
And also, yeah, it's just fascinating. And then the reliance on the fundamentals. I like this word that you use, like a good fundamentals package, like Caruso or the Path. It made me want to ask you, I can either get the silver package, the gold package, or the platinum package. What what in concision, because I've been endeavoring to develop my own warm-ups for a while now. It's like, how do you fit it all in? I want to warm up my phrasing, my articulation. Do I do it by day theme like I did in 2019, where Monday was rhythm and articulation, Tuesday was dynamics and tone, Thursday was phrasing and blah blah blah. how do you think about getting it all in, or do you not think about getting it all in and just kind of tend to what's like most immediate?
That's a really cool question. I like the idea of what you just said about the different things for different days. Freydis Rivera, who's amazing and very wise, she suggests something I feel like is generally a good idea. She talked at a horn class at Curtis about basically changing up your warm up so that you're doing it mindfully. And I think that's really brilliant. Whatever it is that you're doing with your fundamentals and your warm up, you just want it to be something you can focus on, something that you really like, you're listening and you're feeling and you're thinking and you're there. We want to solidify the process of feeling like the air is coming into our body and exhaling in a natural and easy and open way. You want to start with that. And then, of course, you want to get the rhythm underneath it so that you've got momentum and you've got coordination. So you want to add that in. And then you want to make sure that, you go comfortably in, a small register for a little while, add a little bit of tonguing, maybe arpeggios, maybe it's long tones with crescendo, something like that. So basically, I mean, everything that our teachers teach us to do in terms of warm-ups, I think they're all great and you can mix and match them. I mean, for me, if I have a heavier week, if it's like something like Rite of Spring, I need a more meaty warm up. I need a longer one. I need one where my body ends up at a more able to do a whole bunch of stuff and wackadoodle stuff, as opposed to like Sibelius 5 this week. What I really need is like ease and I need open and like sonic wonder. So I'm like trying for like relaxation and deep, relaxed kind of things to get me there, as opposed to something high end touchy where you really need your response and you need to feel like you can, kind of rely on things and your tongue is not getting in the way. So sometimes I'll warm up differently depending on what piece it is that we're doing at work. And you can do that in school or in freelance land. You can kind of do that anywhere in your career that you are. And then, so that's sort of topical warm up. And then there's kind of making sure you have all your bases covered. And
Yeah.
I tend to have a separate foundations practice routine separate later in the day that takes care of the other stuff. And that's the stuff that I feel like I just need to make sure that I'm doing. And that would be things like big arpeggios or kind of the Caruso intervals, which get you even sound through the registers, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Anything that's kind of acrobatic, I would wait till later in the day because honestly, when I warm up, I never feel as good. I never feel as open. I never feel like I'm breathing as well. I feel a
Interesting.
little tight. And if I do anything that's super, acrobatic or high, I'm likely to seal in bad habits rather than good ones. So I tend to take it a little easy in the morning and only get to where I need to be for whatever the first service of the day is. And then I leave the other stuff till later when my body's working a little better. And honestly, I'm a little bit more awake and aware, which for me is later in the day.
Yeah.
But, so it's kind of like finding yourself as well. Like, what do you feel like you need? And some people naturally find a good balance, and other people it's helpful to journal about, like, well, this past month I've been doing this. It's fine, but I feel unprepared for this, that, and the other, or I feel like this is slipping or whatever. Like sometimes you can, use a nice notebook and figure out, what you feel like you might want to put in a little bit more or less of.
Yep. I heard you mention breathing bag. I see your horn gleaming there. And I'm curious, since equipment is a curiosity for a lot of folks, first of all, what horn, what mouthpiece are you playing? What other equipment do you use? Do you use a burp or, it sounds like the breathing bag? Like what? Yeah.
Yeah, I have one of those, the other little thing from Wind Song Press, the little tube with the ping pong ball.
Yep.
Those are my two favorite like breathing things for tools. And then I love the Breathing Gym, that, CD, that record is really nice. As far as horn, I play a Rauk. This is not a Rauk. I just
Yeah.
got sent a con. They're making new cons. I think it's part of like a vintage series. And this is, I think, an 11D, and I'm going to record the Gliere on it in about a month. And so I'm starting to practice it at home. So my horn is at work, and my at home route that I teach on is with a student whose horn is getting fixed. So anyway, so I just brought this because I was like, well, I've got it here and I'm starting to learn how to play it. Yeah, and this is a copy of my mouthpiece that Osmond makes copies of different things. My mouthpiece is an interesting Frankenstein thing of it's the Jimmy Chambers kind of Giardinelli type um cup, and I think it's C10-ish, and then it's a Lawson rim. The cups, I know Julie has made those. There's a JFL line of those cups, and then I just have a Lawson rim that I've been using since high school. So yeah, and I
Wow.
haven't changed mouthpieces since '96.
Wow.
So this is a copy of it, and it's similar enough, but the one that I use at work is the one that I've been using forever.
That was another question was what was it like adapting to joining the Philadelphia Orchestra, this concept of a Philadelphia sound? Did you change equipment or concept or what?
Yeah, well, I auditioned on two horns because I wasn't really sure what they were looking for. And it was interesting because it turned out, so I had my Rouk. I had been playing it a little bit in St. Louis Symphony, which is my job before Philly. And I love that horn. That's the one that I now practice and teach on. I kind of dinged up the bell so much that the projection got a little fuzzy. So now, yeah, so I bought a second Rouk that I now am on. But yeah, I really love the Rouk sound. It's a good combination of like dark and projecting for me, and they're colorful, so I feel like horns, like as long as they're personally happy for you, I think whatever is great. And that's kind of that whole, we all get to have a personal sound. And it's really beautiful to like we take inspiration from other people, but to also honor like that your sound vibe, whatever you want it to be, has beautiful place in the world, and that there's somewhere that like that will be exactly what they want. And I have found that I'll play just as well in a bunch of different places, and it's like that's great, it's just not what we do. But then like if you can play great
Yeah.
and make yourself consistent enough that you can do that everywhere, there will be somewhere where they're like, I love you. It's exactly what you just want to find, because then there might be several places, but like yeah, it's just a good feeling. So Philly is it's wonderful because it naturally, I think I love the way that they do things, sound wise and also just musically wise. I love the ethos of it, inspired kind of constantly by that, which is amazing and very fortunate. And when I got here, I didn't know if they really wanted to keep the 8D thing going, which of course I had studied on an 8D, and so that was fine to keep that going. So I did bring that, and I played about maybe a third of the excerpts on my con and about two-thirds on my route because I was more used to it. And then I continued that for the first like 5 or 6 years of being in the orchestra. I would switch back and forth, kind of composer dependent. And it was very helpful because it actually gave my mind somewhere to be, rather than just try to be good enough, don't mess it up, be deserving of this chair. It's like, oh Jesus, like how would you ever, how is anyone going to be deserving of a chair? So anyway, it was helpful to be like, okay, well, this I want my brass horn, and this I want my AD, and
Uh-huh.
blah blah blah. Like I'm striving for a certain color, and I think this fits what I hope they want. And and in general, like I think when you're new somewhere, it's good to feel like you're connecting to everybody around you. So kind of trying to get yourself folded into like the sound and the style of wherever you're playing, maybe especially if you're freelancing or you're on trial somewhere or whatever. Kind of trying to immerse yourself and find the the aspects of yourself that you share with the people around you, you know and then
Hmm.
that kind of helps you blend, and it helps you kind of ride the waves of the music making, phrasing along with people or collaborating or exchanging solos or whatever. And then yeah, it can kind of help you feel like it gives a good place for your brain to be, so you're feeling like you're firing on a lot of cylinders and trying for a lot of different little details.
Yeah. You mentioned you've got this recording that you're preparing for, and I'm personally curious because I'm doing a lot of recording these days, how you prepare, how that's different for, say, an audition or a concert.
Yeah. I just played the Glare about a month ago with a really cool New Jersey wind symphony. So I kind of have the piece worked up already, but yeah, I do find that when it's a recording, I have to be a little bit more strict with myself about like the technical details of things. It's like you really do have to have that wood shedded, because like in you know it's going to sound ridiculous, but in a performance it's like if it's good, but then you miss a few things, it's like, oh, it must have just happened that one time. But it's like in a recording, if you miss a few things, like you're just gonna keep on recording it until you don't miss anymore. It's like you better have like a version where you cannot miss the thing because you're just gonna keep on, you're tiring yourself out until you do it right. So you better actually like have it in your fingers and in your face. So yeah, so I'm trying to woodshed a little bit more diligently, just to prevent myself from the inevitable. So yeah, but it's also it gives you a little more freedom in terms of like uh, being able to give yourself, sometimes it's hard to start things, and when you're nervous, it's hard to start things, and it's good
Yeah.
to, it's nice that in recordings you can give yourself a chance to get comfortable and then try it again, you know.
What
So
are
sometimes
your
recordings are really hard to make, but they do provide some freedom.
yeah, what are your sort of go-to strategies or cures for like hesitation or starting notes, first notes?
Hesitation's a really interesting one. I mean, I think there's a physical component and an emotional component to that topic because I think in general, when we're feeling like things are going well and we feel brave and we feel kind of just comfortable, we don't tend to have as much trouble with beginning things and feeling nervous about the starts of things, whether it's the start of a piece or the starts of notes. But pressure builds in our field. I mean, in general, like as a first step, I think if you're feeling like you have some hesitation and some kind of grabbiness in your production, the best thing is like go talk to a therapist of some kind and talk through like all of the pressures, all the expectations, all the like, emotional things that you feel about yourself and yourself in relation to the instrument, whether it's, feeling insecure, feeling, like I have to get this da, 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 or my parents always, I wasn't, like whatever it is, because we all have a lot of that. And it's good to just have a safe place to talk about it. And then it's good to have there be some part of your warm up and your production kind of routine where you can like air attack stuff and let yourself produce the sound without trying very hard, like kind of
Hmm.
just kind of letting the sound happen, and not anything that's that way, but just like it just like it just, I put my lips together, I blow a little bit, and the sound comes out. And
Yeah.
kind of getting into that feel, and you can do that right at the beginning of the day and just feel the lips coming together. The mouthpiece is a really good tool for that because you can feel the vibration happening. You can feel it buzzing. It's a reassuring feeling. And then if you add a little bit of tongue and you can fool around with what feels good and what feels obtrusive, and then you can even sort of subdivide gently on it, but not in kind of a three, four, go, but like kind of a da, 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 where it's like it's more of a cyclical, like a round kind of, wheel that's turning, and you find a place and you just enter in on the wheel. And that's kind of a nice thing then when you start playing in ensembles, is that like there's always a moving train that's going. And if you really align yourself to like the bass line or whatever the kind of the waves that are crashing of like usually string themes and things, you've always got there's ups and downs and people are phrasing to a certain point and then they're coming back, and you can get yourself in on that sort of moving train and kind of just play along with them. And the more connected you are to what's happening that way, then I mean, we usually tend to be better in time, better in tune, and less self-conscious when we're kind of attaching ourselves to something that's already happening. And so
Yeah.
it's good for nerves and it's good for hesitation, and it's good for just accuracy generally because then you're more integrated and you're less likely to fall off because of crunching time or pitch with someone.
It reminds me of even in the visualization that you provided with the accompaniment going, that you're kind of glomming on to, even if it's a mental phenomenon of this momentum that's something bigger than just, okay, I'm going to start this note out in the cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, most of us are more collaborative. We're people creatures more than we're sort of narcissists. And I think the, the neurotic part of most horn players comes from sort of feeling a little isolated. And so anything we can do to kind of remember that it's a generous art, and it's also a sharing art and a conversational art. And even if I mean, certainly, like a fun thing is the fact that some person wrote this music and then they put all of themselves into it, and then you get to put yourself into it, and then you play it for someone else who is going to take it in. So it's like it's by nature, of course, a collaborative thing, but also just, luckily a lot of what we play is collaborative with people. So even if they don't happen to be present right there, it certainly is helpful to imagine it. I mean, some people find with hesitation, for example, that like watching videos of things and playing along with the conductor's cues are helpful, or even like playing along with the bow arms of people and things. Just kind of,
Right. And then you could internalize that as part of your process if for an
yeah,
audition, for example.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes when I'm feeling nervous about things, I'll air attack things or I'll nose breathe before them just to kind of make it less of like a, kind of a breathe, hitch, stop, and grab, but more just like, you it's like you're on a circle.
You mentioned how collaborative most horn players are, and I'm curious if there's any memorable, especially memorable collaborations that you've experienced that have had a big impact on you as a musician or personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. I've had a whole bunch. Like maybe one of my first ones that was really big was playing the ring cycle with the Met, because sitting in something that big and vast and kind of amazing, and I'm like playing Wagner tuba, which is uncomfortable. I'm still in school, which is uncomfortable, and like it just there was a lot of discomfort, but it was just it's this huge storytelling. Opera just generally is you're literally telling a story, and the fact that the motifs all have themes to them and like purpose stuff was just the most helpful kick starting into, like, I'd say a professional career, because it was like you're surrounded by people who, if they've done this a million times, they're not all that nervous, like they're just doing their thing, and like, it's just also this really long experience, so you can't be like freaked out for 12 hours. I mean, like, you die. So like you have to
Yeah, the
get into
nervous
some
system just
sort of
can't take it.
right, yeah, exactly. So you have to get into some sort of stasis. So anyway, but it was very helpful also. It's like, oh, when I have a purpose for something, I can go with that. And so sometimes it started helping me think about things like storytelling. So even when you are doing something all by yourself, like we just did Bruckner 4, and like the beginning of that is so amazing and so scary. And I remember like Dakiani once conducted in Philly, and he had this whole visual of like it's like the stage lights come on and the curtain goes up and there's a village, and hark, there's a horn from far away, and then you see a light come on in one of the windows, and like the lights start coming on as you do your first things by yourself, and then somebody comes out of their door, and all you can see is their silhouette, and that's when the woodwinds come in and start conversing and stuff. And it's great to have some sort of image in your head, or something in your ear that you're going for. Some sort of indication musically is always just such a treat. And then so you can kind of alternate between the collaborative stuff and feeling like you're part of something, and then also then your own personal storytelling, or your role in the story that's being created. And all of those are really gratifying places to be, when you're
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah, when I was doing a lot of flying around and doing guest principal horn, I would I would paint the concert. I would put on the music to the concert and paint however the music. I have Brahms 2, I have Mahler 5, I have Firebird, paintings that encapsulate what it meant to me. And then I would really go into that and kind of develop my own texture, color, story to bring to the performance. That helped me a lot as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, and you can also, if you're feeling kind of inspired. Julie used to have me go to art museums and art exhibits and like look at art and take a picture of something and think about what piece it might remind you of, and
Mm.
then like play something by a composer of that and look at the art, and maybe your articulation is a brush stroke, or like basically, or like what color of blue is that crescendo going to be, which it goes from what shade to what shade, what like Home Depot color, color thing are you on.
Ah,
I think all of that is really healthy, and it's really nice because it's almost like you're seeing a ball from a bunch of different directions.
that sounds like a good segue to talk about your current project, the recording project, and talking about phrasing and education and how we get people to channel more of their artistry through some of this music. Can you talk about that project a little bit?
Yeah, so for a while now, I've been wanting to do educational projects. My injuries have kind of gotten in the way because I've been, of course, not in kind of any place to put myself out there, any more than my life is already putting myself out there. So yeah, so it's been a little delayed, but the one that I'm working on right now is solos for the horn player. Those books from Mason Jones. I recorded the first six from book one, and honestly, a lot of them are current, are like common pieces that we would all play anyway. The later ones in those books, but the first six, they're kind of like little vignettes, like tiny little things that you wouldn't normally play, and I think they're very educational. And so Sylvia Alamina, who I worked with in high school, she had asked me during the pandemic, because we were recording things for Philly Orchestra, little chamber things and little solo things, kind of all from our basements and whatnot. And she was like, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if you recorded those pieces?" And maybe had like a music minus one thing with a pianist, and people could play along with it and submit tapes and stuff. And of course, I didn't get around to it at that point. So now I'm just doing it with a pianist, and we were live together. And but what I wanted to discuss within it is like when we're kind of growing up musically, maybe it's from when we start playing or a couple years into like our profession, kind of how we learn how to be good at the instrument, but also how to be good musicians. Kind of, we're all on these different paths, and they're sort of separate topics, but they integrate so beautifully. And it's like, well, where does great phrasing or great musicianship or great style and character come from in playing? And I started thinking about it, and it's like, well, I think a lot of it's instinct, and then a lot of it's planning. So in these videos, I'm talking about kind of what can sort of feed your instinct, and what kind of things can you plan into a piece and practice into a piece that will lead you not only technically better at doing it, but musically, like it honors the style and it honors the composer. So the first three of them I talk about kind of 5 steps to great style, and that's 5 planning steps, and then sort of some instinct questions at the beginning. I just say things like, close your eyes, what do you hear? How does it make you feel? Where are the big lines? Where do you think the phrase tops are? Kind of stuff like that. What do you know about this composer? What do you want to share? What cool aspects would you like to point out to your audience, kind of thing. And then the planning parts are things like, what kind of breath would you take? What kind of air would you use? What kind of rhythm and subdivision would you use? What kind of articulation? And then what kind of phrasing things like pickups and downbeats, appoggiatures, releases, stair step phrasing, like this goes to here, that goes to two, and that goes to three, short phrases, long phrases, kind of things you learn in
Mm.
school about how to phrase things. How can you plan that into your pieces so that it honors different things? And then the last three are kind of a discussion on Mozart, Beethoven, and Mendelssohn, and kind of what makes those composers, and how do we again use instinct and what we know about them, and use like how we practice to make them sound more like themselves.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Not to put you on
kind
the
of food
spot.
for thought. Not like I know, but like food for thought. It's kind of like, oh, let's start a discussion about what all this is.
Yeah. It you could say no, but I'm curious if you have a phrase that we could give an example of, like maybe you could play in a couple different ways, maybe play it flat, play it interpreted, just so we
Hmm.
can kind of hear what that's like.
So that's the beginning of the Stradella aria, and that was kind of normal. Um, if I were to exaggerate what I want from that, I could start it softer. I could use more phrasing to the top, press on it, and then come back. I could also breathe more in the style of it, so my sound is sweeter when I start, and then I can have more line to the top. So I could get kind of a click track of dum, 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 going in my head. And I could smoothly breathe along with that. And you can kind of create more of an aura, like when you think about the little things.
That's such a
And
cool word
so, yeah. Oh,
to
cool.
describe it.
Yeah, it's a fun project because it's just making me think a lot about all these things. And yeah, it's nice to like feel like when you're playing stuff. I think when we go through college and young professionalness, we feel sort of shy about our intentions musically. Kind of feel like, well, I'm not so and so, so well, how do I get to choose what to do with that? I'll just play it like this because my teacher always says to blah blah blah. But like I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to make the wrong choices. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to put myself out there too much. And it's like, that makes sense, but I don't think that advances our art form a whole lot. You know, it advances
Preach.
the technical part. Yeah, but it doesn't advance like the musical goals or the like, what is art and why are we doing it? And like, what can this do for the world? Which, you know, the world has struggles. So how can our art form help with all of those things? And I think
Mm.
anything that's brave and self-honoring and trying to like honor that imperfection is beautiful and that striving is golden and that like open inspiration and sort of sharing of ideas is a beautiful path and a good way to spend your life doing that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to kind of think about it on a smaller level into all the big things that I think we all sort of believe that art can do. Um, and yeah, just in general, I think when we get a little bit older, it's a good challenge to like challenge yourself to be more so all of those things, just to kind of help encourage yourself in the same way as you would encourage a student who seem to be, doubting themselves. It's like you have beautiful things to share, like go, you know, like give
Oh
those to
yeah,
the
I'm
world.
I'm
So.
I'm piecing something together right now where the first time that we played together, I believe, in Philadelphia, it was Firebird, and I was assisting, and that solo came at the end. And aura, when you said aura, it brought me back to that moment because I remember it got so quiet after that the bassoon solo, and you came in, and I think I was worried that the sound of my jaw hitting the floor was going to distract everybody. But it wasn't dead. It was it was brave and magical and alive. And I think that there's something around risk taking that students haven't totally learned how to integrate. You're talking about like, yeah, you got to take a risk, like do it your way. You can't just play it dead and just get the notes and be 100% confident because that actually can be a little bit boring.
Well, yeah, and I think thank you, by the way, that's really nice. I mean, I love that solo and the fact that it's got a storyline is so great. Like, I mean, I'm just sitting there imagining like everybody's been frozen and paralyzed and stone, put in stone and like, like we get to be the one where this, kind of like the phoenix, like the firebird comes and like, drops the beautiful thing and wakes everybody up and that solo is like the opening up of it's like everybody's alive. It's like, oh my God, they're alive. But it's like, it's like, oh my gosh, is he alive? I think he's moving. Oh my God, like she has color. Like, ah. So it's this slow progression. So of course that's like a beautiful moment and yeah, like incredible aura around that anyway. So like we just get to be that we get to be that character, which is a gift. But yeah, just in general, I think with risk taking and musicality, I find that it's up and down with me. Sometimes when things are not feeling that great, it is hard to be brave. And sometimes I'll just be like, just be decent at the French horn, Jennifer. That's going to be plenty for today. Like kind of a version of like, don't suck. Like just sound
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
First sound good. Kind of first do no harm. First fulfill
Uh-huh.
your role, play your
Uh-huh.
job. Like, it's like, okay, my kid just need me in the face. It's like, great, it's not going to be earth changing, life changing for anybody today, but I can just try to not mess up everybody else and all the beauty they're creating. So fine. So
Huh.
like I think there's some times where that's it, or you're just, you're dealing with something and emotionally you might be a little shut off or whatever. It's like I think it's an important thing to know that it's not always going to be amazing and brave and fearless. We're on these roller coasters and these lives, and the life is being lived at every moment. Something's happening that's changing everything. And even if you're stuck in a plateau or on a tied up by something, it's not like that's going to be forever. And it will pass, it will ease, it will open up. And I think like, so yeah, so when I feel like the market can bear it, I will try to blossom the flower. I'll let the sound bloom, and I'll share as I can. But I have some protective visualizations also. When I'm feeling super freaked out about something, I'll put a rocket ship around me, and I'll be like, I'm going to create something really beautiful in this rocket ship safely. None of you can hear it. None of you can think anything about it. I'm just creating something beautiful kind of for me and myself. And it's just
Huh.
a sort of like, okay. And that's okay too, I think, because I think it can be um a self-loving art as well. And sometimes we need that to be able to then give to others. So I don't know. I fool within in my head as to what is necessary at different times. But I think it's good to have some understanding that it's not always going to be sunshine and roses all the time, but it's also not going to be terrible all the time. And if you feel like you're on a path where there's some bumps and beautiful vistas, you're not alone. I can definitely say that. So, maybe that's why it's important that we talk about things and have beautiful discussions about all of this, just so we kind of know that we're all striving and, you know, on our own ups and downs.
It
So
sounds
it
like
is kind of a beautiful human part.
you really listen to what's needed in this moment. What's needed in this moment? Can I
I'm trying.
be more extroverted? Can I be more introverted? Do I need to protect myself? Do I need to allow thoughts to happen? Do I need to warm up this way or that way? It's very dynamic, flexible, mindful.
Yeah, I'm trying to go with that. Like I found, so we do Mendelssohn Nocturne, and I find that if I lay in a practice room with my legs up on a chair and I nose breathe and then hum for like I kind of sing it in my head, and I nose breathe and hum for like a really long time, like 20 minutes. I can I can get myself into a really beautifully calm alpha state, which is completely not my normal state. My normal state is this, which is loud and talky and gesturing. And I can get myself to that state, which then feels nocturnal and peaceful and calm and pure and like at ease. And that's what I need for that. And so I'll take the time and do that. But like I tried to do that once for like Dvorak 9, and it was really funny because I was like, bum. I didn't miss it, but I was really bored at myself and then mad. I'm like, you know what this is supposed to be? This is the kickoff to the end. This is supposed to be, dude, what are you doing? And I was like, okay, don't yell. You got tomorrow. You can totally do it. And I'm like, well, what would you say if it was a student? Like ride your own wave. Like you're feeling freaked out. Like great. So like ride the energy of it's like get into it and then ride the groove. And the groove of the rhythm will coordinate you. You will probably be more accurate, and at least it'll honor the you know, GD thing of what it's supposed to feel like. And like, good, that's great. And even if you blip on that, it's like, well, at least you're trying for the thing that it's supposed to be, the role that it is in the
Hmm.
piece. So yeah, so I find what we get to do very interesting because where you're at and where a piece could be at, you just have to find some combination of like some blend of yourself and it. And yeah, it is very dynamic. And that might be the most rewarding part about it for me anyway.
Mm, that's so cool. All right, final question. What's your vision for the future of the horn world? How would you like to see it evolve? Or how do you think it will
Hmm.
evolve?
Well, that's such a nice question. I think what I would love to see is more, increasingly more of everyone putting themselves out there for each other to learn and grow off of, both in things like this. I mean, I think the internet, it provides an incredible opening for sharing, talking, sharing, and playing, sharing. And an amazing thing about recording things like live performances and, kind of the beauty of like what actually is a performance and not so much the perfection, just trying to lay it down. Kind of, I hope that we can all continue to grow in that because I think, like all of the things with life and the world and all the things that we struggle with and all the things that we are, I think all of that kind of counts on the same sort of bravery and one step on, ahead of the other, and kind of just trying to be as beautiful and brave and open with ourselves and our hearts.
Mm.
And if we can do that with music and we can put that out in the world, then that's a really nice thing for the world and for
Yeah.
ourselves as we're all striving. So I hope for that kind of thing. I mean, obviously, things like the technique of horn playing have improved dramatically. It's like the dentist brain, kind of everything, uh, improving so much in the last 100 years of horn playing. I mean, I assume that will continue as well. But I do love like what, being creative and being vibrant and kind of living with joy and living with enthusiasm, um, as opposed to fear and self-doubt. Like kind
Oh,
of the possibilities of all of that is glorious. So hopefully we're all just kind of, continuing that spinning wheel of yarn that will continue to grow of that. So
so it is. Love that. I could probably talk to you for 17,000 hours straight. I've
likewise.
loved everything you shared. I want to honor your time. I have a few rocket round questions, just brief,
And I love
concise
what you
answers.
do, by the way.
Oh,
So
thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Okay, so rocket round. How many hand positions do you use?
Oh, I don't know. Like two. One for sitting, one for standing.
Okay, cool. Um,
Although I tune a lot with my hands, so I guess a million.
okay. Yep. Um, favorite etude or exercise, just absolute go-to.
Hmm. I love the Marcel Moïse. It's called Tone Development Through Interpretation. It's a book for flute. And it's all middle register. Well, the ones that I do, just do the ones that are easy enough for us to play. Mostly middle register and really good for like shaping and sculpting and striving for something that's very tasty. And you might fall off the notes, but that's awesome.
That's cool. Something unexpected on your Spotify or music playlist.
I don't know if it's unexpected, but a lot of Broadway show tunes and a lot of classic rock.
Ooh, okay. Favorite classic rock tune?
Ah, um, oh, so cheesy. Uh, I don't know, maybe Journey, like Don't Stop Believing.
Nice.
I don't know. Is that too bad? I don't know.
Epic. How do you know when you're ready to take an audition?
Oh, I don't think we're ever ready to take an audition. If you're trying to take an audition just to get on the path of I'm going to learn how to take auditions and make my performances more consistent, if you're able to take it with that as being your goal and process and kind of like I'm trying to get better at this process of doing this thing, I think you can start it as early as you want and just don't get yourself mired down by the fact that a lot of them will not go your way. And I think in terms of knowing when you're like when you're likely to win something or start advancing or something like that, I don't know that we can tell that,
Hmm.
because yeah, it's sort of a magical, combination of things, a lot of which we don't control.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think if you do start taking auditions, doing a whole lot of mock auditions and recording yourself and listening back. And you can compare yourself to like professionals doing it, or you can even ask your teacher to lay down the list and
Right.
compare yourself very honestly to them. And if you're nowhere in the ballpark, then you might not want to waste your cash. But maybe then again, maybe it's fine because again, it's a process and we're all learning how to do that. And funny and interesting things happen when you freak out in an audition and, things fall out the window. And it's really good to know what those things are likely to be and then how to practice so that you can have more control over it.
Yeah, well said. Okay. If you could put anything on a billboard for the whole world to see, what would you put on there?
Maybe I think you're great, just how
Oh,
you are. I don't know,
that's amazing.
something like that.
Yeah, either that or don't stop believing.
Maybe. I feel like more people would roll their eyes at that one though.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
That might be
pretty
just one for
fantastic.
me.
Awesome. Cool. So how do people find you online? We've got jenmontone.com
Yeah.
and on YouTube.
Yes. Yeah, I have a YouTube channel that all of my videos are always going to be on that. And then yeah, my website, I'm trying to get them all up on there too. I try to have a lot of resources up there about things like how to practice or interviews that I've done or stuff about injuries and nerves. Like there's a whole page on performance anxiety and stuff and tools for and resources about that topic. There's a thing of you can email me from the website about stuff. So, and definitely like if you're going through anything and you want another set of ears, not even about your playing, but if you just want to talk about something, something relating to injuries or nerves or anything, that I might be of help to, like I love the idea of us all being sort of there for each other and kind of a very, large extended family. Please reach out to me if I can ever be of help to any of you in any way.
Awesome. There we have it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Jen. It was a total delight to have you.
Such an honor to be here. Thank you again.
Yeah. If you liked this episode of the Holistic Horn, go ahead and hit the subscribe and like buttons so that the algorithms can help us find you next time we release an episode and also reach other horn players who might benefit from these episodes. You can follow the links in the show notes to get to Jen's latest recording project, and please enjoy your day. Practice well and keep up the great music making.